Hey everybody and welcome back. I am Titan9 and today we're going to be looking at red-blue ping, also sometimes called Pepsi, because of the red and blue. What we're looking at here is the Eggman list that did well at Gencon. The two other times a similar-ish blue-red deck ended up taking down that event, and part of that was the novelty of it. Nobody was expecting this deck to perform or be present. The other part was the deck is, in this iteration, very good against the wing deck, and there was a lot of that there because that was the new kid on campus and was good at taking down blue-white, which was the boogeyman at the time. As you can see here are our... Where did they go? Here are our pingers. Gun Tank, Format All-Star. Gun Tank deals 1 damage to a rested unit. Also, on the higher end of that, so does Anksha. Kshatriya does it when you pair it with any new type, such as Amuro. It definitely does it when you pair it with Marita, who herself deals a damage to one enemy unit when she attacks on a link unit. To take advantage of that Marita, we also have the little Kshatriya and this Gira Zulu, both just needing more generic traits that she fits. We got some lower end 2/2s. Razel, because that card's just great. Love it. Some bases here. And Show of Resolve. And of course, good old Grandpa to work with our Amuro. It's the only thing Amuro actually link rushes to. Everything else needs Marita or traits that Amuro is not. So this deck did very well, but then aggro started having its resurgence, and this has felt a little too slow when I've been messing with it, and Banshee Destroy mode feels a little too high at 3. So, and also this deck is very pilot dependent, and so some people have taken to adding other pilots to it, and I'll show you where I've kind of landed at the moment. This sort of Sayla version here to add a 10th pilot, and to take advantage of that, we had to change around some of the units. And I also wanted to go lower to the ground. The thing I like about the red-blue deck, as I've been playing it, particularly this iteration, is it feels like it can do a lot of different things, depending on the matchup. So we have, again, the 8 2/2s here, but we also have added this Jigen and some gun cannons that pair really well with our Sayla Mass on turn 3, but Sayla also works well with our 2/2s, hopefully the GM, because then it gets repair. And these are great ways to break a base early. Vesalius also helps us do that as well. You've noticed we've gone down on the Ankshas. There's not really a lot of great room for them. It doesn't pair. And because we want to... Against the bigger decks, like Blue, White, and Wing, we want to be able to go faster. Anksha doesn't help us do that. So we want to use kind of our linkable units. Obviously, Gun Cannon can link. Delta Plus has taken up some of the Grandpa Gundam starter deck slots because Sayla can work on this robot as well. I am down to the 2 Banshee Destroy modes, as I hoped. There's no baby Kshatriyas at all. Marita really wants to go onto the Kshatriya, and if you have too many units for her, that, in my experience, felt like it put me in an awkward position where I'm like, do I want to use this now or no? And Sayla and a lot of our cheaper units can more easily trade early in the early game with blockers from the bigger decks or with aggro cards from the aggro decks. When I am against those bigger decks, I play this as I would any rush deck. I look for these cheaper units and try to just swarm the board with them. Close combat's great at taking out aggro units, and in the aggro matchups, I'm also looking for these 2/2s as well to trade with them. So the good news is no matter what matchup I'm in, I know what opening hand I'm looking for. Gun cannons and 2/2s, close combats. It's just a matter of how am I going to use them. Am I going to use them to go wide? Am I going to use them to remove opponents' aggressors and stabilize with these cleanup units of just having bigger things like a 2/3 Jigen or these linked Delta Pluses, Razels, Kshatriya finish things off with gun tanks. Some people are running Battle of Aces, but since we're lower on pingable creatures, I guess they're not creatures, units, I opt for the close combat instead. Some people use 4. I may go up there as well. But right now, my testing 2 has proven to be okay enough. And I don't want to take away from some of my other units right at this moment, because I'm liking kind of the spread I have and the flexibility it gives me in the board game, in the game on the board. That's what I've been trying to say. Thanks for hanging in there with me as I find words to express things in my vocal medium. So because of this deck's difficult the hardest matchup, some people are saying the deck's maybe not good anymore because it is kind of, if you don't draw the right cards in the right order or don't find the pilots, you're not as good in your matchups. I actually think that's true with most decks. I see people currently complaining about 1 Year War Rush, the boogeyman currently of the format, because they say it's too char pilot dependent. You know, the green-white deck, because it's too ramp dependent, and you need to kind of curve out in a certain order. So there's not a lot of consistency in this game as it is. So every deck is going to have some trouble. I played a game with this recently where I just drew most of my pilots and not enough units to go with them. So you could then argue that maybe 10 is too many pilots, but more often I find I'm lacking in pilots to help me go over the top. So I think a lot of people's concerns are too overblown or maybe too anecdotal, and the sample size probably is too small. So I still think this deck's viable, and we're going to try to prove that today by going against its nightmare matchup, the Blockers deck. Right, if we went back to the first Meta Meditations video where I did the big overview, I talked about this sort of triangle effect where this deck is good against green-white, which is good against blue-white, which is good against red-blue. So I thought we would do this matchup today. This is the unicorn version. This version tries to be a little more proactive in its late game by having a unicorn and the destroy mode of the unicorn and some Banagers to make even its smaller-ish units very formidable beasts. Got Unforeseen Incident, which is sort of annoying to have to play around, and sometimes you can't. You gotta kind of know when that's important. Some striker packs, just sort of blockers, and that's kind of it. Amuro is just the 2/1, can work kind of on anybody. Kira obviously makes any blocker an aggressive threat, and Banager just a 2/2, kind of insane even if you don't link it. White base and Archangel. I think sometimes the deck plays more bases, but this is the list we're going to go for now. This kind of gets the gist of all the different unicorn versions of the deck. So here's where we're going to go. I wanted to go with this version over the pure blockers because I think our deck is flexible enough where it has a little better game against them, whereas this version, they get to put pressure on us at the same time, so I thought it would be a good fit. So with that, let's jump into some games. So here we are now in Meta Meditations. We will be playing best of 3. So here we are in the Meta Meditation series. I like to play best of 3, just to give a good sampling here. Just as I said in the deck tech, we are looking for the same hand no matter the matchup, so you don't have to necessarily know what your opponent is on. And we're looking for a lot of low-cost things. Here we're in an odd spot. We are going second, so we can play our Jin on turn 1, play our Visalia on turn 2, and break a base. They theoretically could have a Zawart down at that point, which would throw off our plans. We don't have a lot of great ways to flood the board. We can play our gun tank. We do have a fair amount of low-cost things, so this Vesalius could help draw us something. We're also going to have 2 draw steps to find another low-level unit. These guys are good if we can find the pilot, the Kshatriya, and the Delta Plus. Worst case, we can play our Delta Plus on turn 3 and just have a strong unit. So I will keep this. It's not a slam keep, a snap keep, as the kids say. But we will go for it for now. So no mulligan. All right, they've got nothing. Surprise, surprise. We will. This another high-cost thing. Not a great draw for us to go into. But hopefully we can dodge the Zawart. They could have an Unforeseen Incident, which would make it moot, but we got to draw a card anyway. And then they've used that quickly. All right, we're not in a bad position. We drew a GM, So we could play our Vesalius, and if that gives us nothing special, we can just go gun tank into GM. In this matchup in particular, don't be afraid to play your gun tanks out aggressively. You want to prioritize your 2/2s first, but the gun tanks does serve perfectly fine. In an aggro matchup, you might want to save it until you can trade off something juicy. But let's open with our Vesalius, because we know we need to play this to break that base. We'll see what we get as well. It's a pilot, so that'll be good when we get to the Kshatriya turn. But for now, let's activate our Jin here and clear out that base. Are we getting... No, they didn't want to use one then, or they don't have one in hand. They do have 3 in this version. So we're going to play our 2/2. We are going to save our EX resource for this Delta Plus. We want to get to that Merida pretty quickly. This might change things. Let's first attack with the Jin. Nothing. Let's attack with the GM. The Jim. Nothing there too. Okay, so there is an argument here to play our Delta plus another unit. We are going to get to rush with the Kshatriya next turn. If we don't do that, we could just play 2 units, the gun tank and the Jin, and just have a good board. And if they had a Lefrith, they probably would have played it this turn. They love on turn 3 to play a Lefrith and hold up an unforeseen incident, especially against 2/2s, because they can just eat them up for free. I don't think next turn they're going to play 2 Lefriths, because that would imply they have one in hand already, and they're not using anything. My guess is their hand has too many high-cost things in it. So at most, they're probably only going to have 1 blocker for us next turn, which I think makes it better for us to play our lower-cost units. And worst-case scenario, if we draw one of our 6 pilots for the Delta Plus, we can just rush it on a later turn. So let's do that. Jin... gun tank with no targets, and we will end the turn here. They have the 1 blocker, and they've Amuro'd it for no... we're on wingtable.net, which means we're playing against an AI. I subscribe to the Patreon, so I do have the better AI, and I have noticed the AI get better in recent months. So some of you may be watching and thinking that was a misplay to put that Amuro because they weren't able to take the tap effect, but the tap effect matters less for them on a defensive position. So it works better as having this 3 cost, because now I can't kill them, as you can see. That's the math that they're doing in their heads. It would have been nice if we had that Amuro on this Delta Plus, because then we could just tap it and likely finish them off if they have no bases in here. But again, they can only block 1 of them. Our gun tank would have been nice, but when they block 1 of these, our Kshatriya's gun with the Merida is going to get to finish it off. So let's attack first and get them to block. Attack with our smallest units first. They did want to block that, which makes sense. It's a better trade for them. And against shields, 2 is the same as 1. If they wanted to be extra cautious, they could take out one of the 2 and make it harder for me to burst, to kill a base if I burst into 1 on their end. Okay, another reason not to kill this right away, this Sword Strike token, because as we saw just there, if we burst into a Striker pack, they don't get any token. This only goes off if there is no Earth Alliance token in play. So that is a good reason to hold back on Merida. Keep that in mind. You don't want to give your opponents extra chances at blockers and throw off your combat math. So we're not going to get to kill them this turn because they had that blocker. We gave them Akira, so they're likely going to get to bounce something back to our hand. But again, we're going to have them so low, it won't matter. If they play that Kira in the Isle Strike, they don't get to play a base. And their base, they can play the Archangel. That base is pretty cheap at 1 and play another big unit, but probably not rush it. And if they want to play that Kira and bounce a thing and kill another thing, that won't help them. They won't be able to play a base that same turn. So let's... Why am I not... There we go. I was having some problem with my keyboard there. Play our Kshatriya. Play our Merida on it. Let's deal damage to this. And now we'll attack and finish it off. Do not attack that target. We're going to deal damage to that target. There we go. Get that, no base. Okay, we're looking in very good position here to win on turn 5. This is the advantage of that. Yep, here's our Kira, bounces a GM. Sort of a useless, symbolic attack there. And let's just finish him off with the Jin. Let's see what their hand was here. Show Resolve. I've sort of ranted against this in aggro decks. We're seeing even in control decks, it cannot be great if you have a good aggro game plan. Another Kira. Unicorn they weren't going to get to. And they could have bounced another thing if we weren't quick enough. That would have definitely given them some advantage. They must have just drawn this Zawart last turn, which obviously wasn't going to make a big difference. They couldn't play it with any... They couldn't play 2 blockers on that turn given the distribution that they had. Okay, that looked pretty good. That's why I like the more aggressive build compared to the Eggman list. I like being able to have that flexibility. I guess, not to poo-poo the Eggman list, that one has the same amount of 2/2 units. It doesn't have the Gencons or the gun cannons, so it's not as small as we are. And obviously we want off the backs of our 2/2s. The Eggman list could have done that same thing. We didn't play the Delta Plus that we have, but I guess I'm thinking of one of the other lists I first started looking at. The one that won the first day of the Gencon, they were less big. I'm sorry, they were less small. And I'm seeing some red-blue players like to go on the bigger route. Some players like to play that Japanese list that is basically all big. Eggman's list is built very well, too. I've just decided to streamline it here in the rise of aggro. If aggro starts to get pushed down, now that blue-white's going to start to come back up, then it's reasonable to look at some of the options that were in that list, too. Let's go to game 2. We get to go second again, which is excellent. I love this hand. Turn 1, GM. Turn 2, Vesalius. Make this a 3/3. I'm thinking magic terms again. Make this a 3 AP. Attack the base. And also get to play a GM. We don't have to hope we draw something good with the Vesalius. And then on a future turn, play this gun cannon. There are 6 pilots, so there is a fair chance we're able to get that pilot we need. Wish the Bantry wore a Kshatriya to get to play it slightly earlier, and the Kshatriya is more flexible because any of our pilots can set off that when paired effect. Banshee you want to see later in the game because it's best mode you can't do until you have the 12 cards in your library, and you also want to have your pilot available for that, so later in the game you are more likely to have both of those. But that's me talking a little too long about this hand. We are not going to mulligan. All right, let's play our GM. Oh, we got the Kshatriya, so that'll be good. Let's hope we can dodge a Zawart. If they have one, we will still probably attack into it just to get it out there. We have a backup GM anyway. I have no need to play this base now because I know I'm not going to get to bust it. If they don't want to block with it, that's fine too, because we are going to have now 2 units we can play to make up for that fact. They have chosen to block it and shrink my board. That's reasonable. We'll play 1 GM. We'll play 2 GMs. And next turn, we can play this Vesalius and the gun cannon if we want. If we get a pilot for it, we could rush into attack. We get to play this for 1. I'm going to attack. I don't want them to know I have this potential to bust their base this turn. So I am going to attack with our GM first. If they do not block it, because it's not threatening to bust the base, I will stop right there, settle for my 2 damage on the base, play my gun cannon and my Gencon. If they do choose to block it, I will then attack with this GM and just play the gun cannon and the Gencon. I know it looks like we're trading a unit, but we have to get rid of this somehow anyway. And the more damage we do to it, the more our Kshatriya has a chance to ping it to super death. So let's go try to attack that base, see what we're doing there. They will block. We will now finish off that base. If they want to suit up a Kira on this thing and attack one of my GMs next turn and be aggressive that way, which I'll see blue-white players do sometimes, that's not the end of the world either. Because again, we still got 2 units out of it. And I still think we're going to have the potential to ping it down in the future. They can't, well, if they have the Kira, they could kill either of these units, but let's not get that far ahead, shall we? All right, we're going to play the gun cannon first so that our G-gun is cheaper, and we will end the turn here. All right, what did they... Yep, they did do the Kira. Yep, they did do the attack, as I expected. And there's a... Oh, they want to Kira that, too. They're going hyper aggro here. Okay, the gun cannon's nice. We don't get to finish off that Lefrith, though. A pilot would have been super great. I think I'm okay playing the Kshatriya here, because if any pilot I draw next turn lets me set it off, I probably won't attack this turn. They could bounce it with a... So likely they don't have a third Kira. So even if they play the Isle Strike, it's not going to be able to rush. But any pilot uses that effect, and then the Kshatriya goes back to my hand and I've lost a big tempo. I could also try to finish off that Lefrith now, but then I'd lose my unit. The Razel kills off the other unit, and I'm not looking great then. I'm getting into the phase where their deck gets to do their thing. This one's a little tricky to navigate. I could play this Vesalius first, which I would need to do to kill off this Lefrith. And if I don't kill it off this turn, and I have attacked with these two things, it's going to kill off something for me and not trade unless I play my gun tank again. Oh no, it won't matter anyway because I'm going to get the -2. There's also a chance that if they play that Isle Strike and play it with an Amuro, they tap the Kshatriya and trade it off with one of these units. Because with the Kira effect, the Kshatriya wouldn't kill the Razel. So this could be a really risky play. Alright, I'm going to play it a little safe at the moment. I'm going to play this Vesalius. Maybe playing it safe is not a wise move against the blue-white deck. Okay, I was hoping to draw something cheap so I could put out 2 more units here and really do some ping damage to this Lefrith. And then finish it off with a gun tank next turn. They're probably going to play a blocker. They might even play 2. This was likely the better... Well, Kira on a Zawart? No, that's still only 3. This probably was a better play than playing out 2 blockers. I think we're going to hold back and try to swarm. We'll deal 1 to here and 1 to here. We'll save our resource. If we draw a Marita next turn, we could theoretically Banshee rush. I think it's better, though, to Kshatriya rush and get those last bits of damage off. They're going really aggro here. And that didn't even finish off the base. Yeah, they did this in a bad order. They must be planning to play a blocker, yeah. They didn't bounce anything with it, though, but they do have a big 4/4 that's a pain in the butt. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about with the deck being pilot-dependent. Like, any of these units with a pilot would be super great. I love that we have the Delta Plus. We're more likely to draw a Federation pilot than we are one of our Maritas. This is also what I'm talking about with the deck being Marita hungry. We have 2 cards in hand, and only Marita will rush them. So if we draw 1 even, then it becomes which one's better to go with. I'll have to trade 2 units in to finish off this Isle Strike. I'm sorry, to finish off the Lefrith. The Isle Strike is going to block one of them. But I may not have a choice. If I draw a pilot for my Kshatriya, I can finish off the Lefrith that way, but I can't block, and they're clearly going on a more aggressive plan here. It's interesting that the AI finds that to be the better situation. Though I do see the logic in it. It actually, I think, is correct. I wish I had that Vesalius so I could try to... I think I'm going to actually play the Banshee, because our Banshee's not... This Banshee's probably not going to get to do the very cool thing this game. If we draw 1 later, it could. I'm going to try to finish off this Lefrith and take out some attackers. It still probably isn't wise to attack with these units. I'm also somewhat discouraging them from playing a base. So we'll hold tight on attacking, because they're just going to get to trade and kill my things. I will play this Banshee, because the Kshatriya pings, I think, will matter more to help let my little guys finish off units. Oh no, the Amuro. They're just going aggro here. Hey, that'll be helpful. Sadly, I'm not gonna get to take advantage of this Delta Plus repair, because all of their units are big. I guess I can use it against the Isle Strike, and they're gonna block with that anyway. Or I could try to ping, and then any of my units could kill that. Alright, we're not going to get to rush, but I think that's okay. We still have 5 pilots that work with our Delta Plus. We don't get to take advantage of that repair. Or do we? Let me do my math here. So it becomes a 5-4. No, 5-5, no. With armor, nah, even with armor, it doesn't matter. I'm not confident in this at the moment. But if they want to go aggro, we do have to try to kill off their things as best we can. I'm going to attack the base. They're going to get to kill something with this Amuro. But I'm going to have to live with that. I've got to get rid of their attackers. I have to be the control deck now. Worst case scenario, I just pop their base. And maybe not attack with the gun cannon at that point. Okay, I'm not going to attack with the gun cannon now and let their Amuro eat it for free. Especially since it has the repair too. I will probably trade the Kshatriya into it. Ooh, yeah. Striker pack, not a big deal, because our Kshatriya is going to take care of that. Oh, alright, well now we're set if we draw another one. So an unforeseen incident is still something we have to play around, so let's keep that in mind as we decide our attacks. Let's do our damage to each of these units. I like that they pick the 4-2. That'll make it easy for us to do the thing we want to do. Either of these are going to die to the Amuro Gundam. That being said, it's probably better to lose the Sailor one. One, because the Merida has the stronger attack, and because it does the damage on attack. So I think we'll let that one die. We have to attack with our Merida one first, though, so that we can get rid of this blocker. Bye, Strike Pack. I know this sort of breaks the rule of like leaving that token alive until we're done attacking their shields, but the gun tank's not going to be able to attack them while that blocker's still there. So let's go and take care of that. They should have unforeseen incident our Kshatriya. I still would have attacked, I just would have attacked their shields. It would be unfortunate, they would likely, well, they actually might take out the gun cannon there, because they get to do that for free. But let's go and take care of that Grandpa Gundam ourselves. I think now we're safe to also play out this Delta Plus, because we'll have 8 resources next turn, and with only the one Merida in hand, we're going to get to play basically anything we want to anyway. You could argue that we have the Show of Resolves to draw, and then we'd want to have more resources, but I think at this point, we want to try to run pressure, because the later the game goes, the more favored they are. They could draw their own Show of Resolves, they could draw more beefier blockers. They could unicorn us. Okay. Nothing to worry about there. They did have that base they were sitting on for a bit. We could, let's see, let's do some math here. We could Amuro on the Delta Plus, make that a 6-5. That still dies to the unicorn. We could Amuro onto this gun cannon. Oh, it doesn't matter because this thing's not tapped. The Amuro would tap it. Okay. And then trade there. Finish off their base. Because otherwise their unicorn may attack our gun cannon for free-ish. It gets to also tap a unit. Our gun cannon probably isn't great against most of their units anyway. Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, okay. Let's do that then. Ideally, we'd want to tap. Okay, let's do math again. So we're definitely going to clear this base and take out 2 shields. One of which could be a striker pack. They have 3 cards in hand. We didn't draw a unit this turn, which is unfortunate. Let's do it. Alright, let us finish off this unicorn here. With that. Bad news bears. Bad news bears for us. Even if we had put it on this Delta Plus, though, and attacked with it that way, the Amuro wouldn't be able to kill it. I guess we could have pinged it to death, though. Okay, I should have played around that. We had to get that unforeseen incident out of their hand anyway. That feels bad. Now I have to throw the Delta Plus in its way, or it's going to kill my Merida. Arrgh. That was good. That was a good play on their part. Alright, well, we're definitely going to get rid of this base. Oh, because it doesn't... I can't even ping it. Okay, so I wouldn't have been able to... I forgot. I forget about this clause where it has to be a level equal to or lower than our unit. Kshatriya is only level 5. So even if she were on Banshee, we wouldn't have been able to do this anyway. Okay, I don't hate it then. We were always going to have to play this. The alternative is we just go shields, and now we revert back to the aggressive role. I just don't love being there this late in the game. If they have another unforeseen incident, we're kind of screwed. Oh, no, it doesn't matter, because they can't play it. All right, let's do it here, so they can't unforeseen incident on our turn. We've lost a Banshee, and the other Kshatriya. We don't have a lot of great links left for this. They can block here and trade. They did play another base, and they got a card because of that. They might not want to block, because they could kill... No, we still kill them even with the -2, unless they had an unforeseen incident. We don't kill them if they have an unforeseen incident now. No, because we do the 1 to them. Well, we can't really just sit around here, so let's do it. Attack here. They do want to block. And we just have to play the sad Jin. They only have 1 card too, so we are kind of at parity here. A Banagher on that would have been devastating. This isn't helpful at the moment. We could bait them to attack this. And keep chipping away at this base. Because then we get some use out of our close combat. So let's do it. Yeah, they got their card draw before we did. That's not great for us. That is also bad for us. We'll pass. Because we might need this on something else later on. They don't know why they did that. Doesn't matter. They couldn't use those things anyway. Alright, let's play our own base. See if we can draw something useful. It's not ideal, but it is a unit. They're going to get to kill our base and do a shield damage next turn. We don't really have a choice, though. We might be at their mercy. A show of resolve would help us out here. Oh, no, forgot about that. Well, that's fine. If they want to attack with the Isle Strike, we get to finish that off with our close combat. They do not. Reasonable on their part. We do have to kill off one of these units now. That wasn't awesome. We're going to attempt to kill this destroy mode. If they block it, we still get to close combat the Isle Strike. If they don't, we get to kill it with the... we're going to play this now, there. They'll trade. We survive one more turn, but it's not looking great for us here. They're going to get... They won't be able to break that base, so that's nice. Would have been... Wish that was something better. We do now have our 12 cards. If we do draw that other Banshee, we're in pretty good shape. If we can play Marita on something, we get to ping. Okay, not awesome. We will, though, play our GM. We will kill that unicorn, because then they can't bust our base with one attack. Oh, no! Oh! I did that math wrong. It doesn't matter, because even if we killed the unicorn, this would kill the base, and the Lefrith would kill us, so we're just dead. That's why you play best of 3, though. As you can see, this is a hard matchup. They were able to take out our units. That unforeseen incident came at a terrible time, but that's why they have it in the deck. A terrible time for us. But we couldn't have played around it then. I know I didn't think to play around it, but it wouldn't have changed some things. I guess I could have sat back and wait, but then it's just in their hand the whole time. It's so late in the game, they're always going to be able to keep one resource open. At a certain point, you have to make them have it, especially in the late game when they're just going to draw more cards. A Show of Resolve, we have 3 of them. A Show of Resolve anywhere in there would have been helpful. So, just things to keep in mind. That was a pretty close game there. A couple of different draws would have helped us out. But the same could be said on their end in game 1. So let us go to the next game. We are playing first here, so that's good. I would like to demonstrate what that's like going first. It's a little trickier because we don't get to GM on turn 1 and to Vesalius turn 2 break a base. But we do have 2 low-costing units, and we do have that Vesalius to go into. Plus we have Marita and Kshatriya. So I know it doesn't look super exciting, but I think it's pretty good. We won't mulligan. On turn 2, this would be a lot better, but we've got to, you got to go with the die roll. Let's end the turn here. The Razel for turn 3 might be a better option, although I guess we could Razel into the base. They don't have a Lefrith for us, or they don't want to play it immediately. I am going to play the gun cannon without anything to ping. We don't have battle aces to consider. We could also just play 2 units, and these 2 together could work on finishing that base, but I think it might be better to get a shield in. In this Jin, we could just play at any turn. If we get another 1-cost thing, so now I will play the Jin and the GM instead of just the Razel. To flood that board, this Razel can come down anytime. If they have a Lefrith next turn, that would be a little sad, but if they didn't play it this turn, they'd probably want to wait to use an unforeseen incident, would be my guess, though they do have that EX resource to do that anyway. They must have an Owl Strike they're trying to race to. Well, let's make our GM big and do the aggro thing that we want to do. Alright, and it's board flooding time. End the turn. Alright, they have a base here. A little annoying. Our Razel could have dealt with that. But they did use their... Oh, okay, well, now our Delta Plus will deal with that. That was a lucky draw. But again, we have 6 pilots that go with that Delta Plus. Although I guess it was the Delta Plus that we needed. That's the only one. It had to be the Delta Plus. If it were the gun cannon, we would not be able to deal 4, or 5, but at least it would only have cost us the gun ting to get through. But this is still mighty good. We'll attack. Their Gundam can't finish off our Delta Plus next turn. At level 4, they don't have anything super threatening to play. I think with the board that we have, they would have played a Lefrith or a Zawart if they had one, instead of making that token. Maybe they thought the base would be enough in light of our tiny units. And if we hadn't drawn that Delta Plus, it actually would have been quite good. But let's go. Oh no, I should have attacked with that gun ting first. That was silly of me. Got a little absent-minded there as I'm playing and talking at the same time. No striker packs yet, so that's pretty good. They do have the Benager, but that won't matter for next turn. Even if they put it on a blocker to make a gigantic blocker, it won't matter. Even if they put the Gundam on the Delta Plus, it won't matter. And they did have that striker pack right at the end, which is perfectly fine for us. They might go aggro here and trade out of spite. Yeah, show of resolve. Pity show of resolve. Obligatory show of resolve. Yeah, also irrelevant, but a good use of this token. We don't have any good way to bounce like they do. They had to go down to hand size because they have drawn too many cards. Okay, and we just win here. Let's let Guntank have the little victory here. All right, so let's see what they had. Things they couldn't play, something they couldn't play. They couldn't even get to Benager. Isle strikes they couldn't. They were like set up to beat down. And Benager and Amuro would have worked on these things just to bounce stuff and out-tempo us. They did have a Lefrith. They might have found that recently since it's on this part of the hand. They couldn't have blocked all of our things anyway. So you're seeing the power of the lower to the ground version. Sadly, not sadly, but the units we did win with aren't the units that Eggman doesn't have in his list, so this type of opening could have happened anyway, but we did have the Delta and the Sayla, and he does not have that. And I know you look at the breakdown and goes, well, he has 4 starter deck Gundams, and we have 2 of each to make room for the Deltas, but they wouldn't have had this pilot here to rush with and can finish that base in 1 turn. We would have had to use 3 of our units to get that base out, and then only hit 1 shield. And as you can see, that would have given them enough time to really take over. They wouldn't have had the striker pack, but they'd have a Lefrith. They could have put an Amuro on it. I don't want it to sound like I'm poo-pooing the Eggman list. That list is very good too. I don't like it as much as I do this version in the meta that we're currently in. But if aggro starts to go on the decline, because blockers, as you're seeing here, it's very powerful, especially last game, is on the rise, then I think that list is worth going back to. And actually, probably that weird, crazy Japanese one with all the unicorns and Shamblos. Because that one just smokes the bigger decks, because it goes even bigger. This is why I would recommend this version currently, but if your meta already doesn't have a lot of aggro, one of the stores I play at doesn't have a high amount of aggro there, those other versions I might take a look at. But for stores that do, I consider looking at this version. I know it looks like we kind of ran over blue-white in 1.5 of these games, but just remember, the strength of this deck is also the weakness. It's very flexible, so we get to do a lot of different things and react to our opponent's game plan as it changes during the game, which is nice. But it also means that sometimes we can draw things in the wrong order. We could very easily have started this game with a mulligan into a hand where we had a lot of Kshatriyas and Banshees, maybe even Delta Pluses, and that's it. Maybe a show of resolve, no pilots, and then like we're too slow. This hand is incredible. If they had had the time to play it, I don't think any deck is going to beat it. This isn't like a god tier deck. It reminds me a lot of the Wing starter deck. That deck I know looked bad to a lot of people. It just required really tight play and knowing how to maximize the flexibility and card advantage of that deck. I think this deck is very similar to that. It's really easy to pilot poorly, but if you can work with it and get some reps in and do a lot of practice and see all the crazy lines you're capable of and figure out what all your outs are that you can try to work towards or draw into, then I think the deck has a very, very strong game against any of the other decks due to that flexibility. So keep that in mind. Let me know if you want to see other versions of Red-Blue or other matchups for the Red-Blue deck. Let me know what other decks and matchups in general you want me to see. Leave a comment in the YouTube channel. You can message me on Discord at Titan9. But otherwise, I hope that you have a wonderful day and good luck at all of your weeklies.